And now the news source, of course, is what we are all calling new media. And if there is indeed a mogul yet, and I don't know if you'll agree to that term, a mogul yet of new media, it is my guest, Andrew Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart provides the feed for the Huffington Post as well as the Drudge Report, and is pushing the envelope of new media faster and quicker and better than anybody. And I'll say right now on line one is my guest, Andrew Breitbart. Mr. Breitbart, how are you, sir?
Hey, how are you, Willie?
I'm doing real good. It's a tremendous day today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. You'll hear I have 4 kids, and they're playing throughout the house, so they'll run through and just ignore it.
Not a problem. Not a problem. They just got back from being superstars, so it's all good. It's all good.
No, my oldest son played in this thing called Rockstar. I don't know if everybody saw the movie or knows of the movie with Jack Black about Rockstar. And so my son was the first band of about 50 today, and they played "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey, and it was quite a rendition there.
I'm thinking it was great. I bet you have videotape. And it's going to be, and it'll be in the family archives forever.
Oh, it'll be on YouTube.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. All right. Well, sir, it is interesting that what you've been able to do. For everybody who doesn't know, Mr. Breitbart was featured in this month's.
Call me Andrew heretofore. Call me Andrew.
Yes, sir. I will do just that. Andrew, you were featured in this month's Town Hall magazine. That's the same people who own this radio station. Yay! And reading this article, it seems like you had this instantaneous catharsis that things weren't just right during the Clarence Thomas hearings.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, the part of Los Angeles where most of the people who make your media, make your movies and your music live, and so you grow up. You don't even know that there are 2 different political points of view. You grow up with the single point of view that you're given, whether it be in the public schools or the private schools, and that's the liberal point of view. And nobody really challenges it. But when I graduated from college as a person who perceived myself to be a liberal Democrat, and I loved political theater, I even went to the Iran-Contra hearings back in the mid-1980s during high school. I sat down to watch the Clarence Thomas hearings, looking to watch, the media and the Democratic Party take down President George Bush, the father's nominee to be on the Supreme Court, because he had been accused of being a sexual harasser. And so I sat down with my popcorn and my Milk Duds, and I was expecting to see evidence that would overwhelmingly show that this man was a cad and could not be put in the proximity of women in a workplace. And after 5 days, I have to say, I went from the first 2 days, I kept thinking, well, they're eventually going to get to that evidence. But they never did. And then I started to draw some conclusions that, wait a sec, I had just read a book by Joe McGinnis on Ted Kennedy that showed what he had done at Chappaquiddick. And I thought he was kind of an anomaly within the Democratic Party, and that because he was part of the Kennedy family that he had gotten away with something that had nothing to do with the Democratic Party. It was just a Kennedy thing. But I kept thinking to myself, how is it that Ted Kennedy feels so comfortable grilling this man about whether or not he rents, what type of movies he's renting? I thought it was the Democrats who believed in a right to privacy. And when I noticed that the NAACP wasn't standing up for this man when they have a hair-trigger desire to defend any liberal Democrat who happens to be a black person, how could they not instinctively defend Clarence Thomas from what was clearly starting to look like the flimsiest of evidence? The worst thing that was said about him was that over 7 years of Anita Hill going job to job to job, following him wherever he went, getting promotions, getting raises, that one time in a conference room he mentioned that there's a pubic hair. Is this a pubic hair on a Coke can to Anita Hill? And I thought to myself, that's it. That's it. That's why we're having this thing on national television. That's why the networks are going gavel to gavel on this thing. And for me, it was a prism at that point into what now I think most conservatives can see fairly clearly, and is something that it's a hard thing to talk to a liberal about. That you see that the Democratic Party and the media work in conjunction with one another, and that was a matrix that I was able to see that pretty much set me on a path from about 91 through about 1995, where I started to recognize, oh my goodness, I am not a liberal Democrat. I'm a conservative Republican, and I'm not the only person. I'm not the only person who has gone through that exact same trajectory. You meet apostates like me, and everybody has a clarifying moment. For some, it's the Clarence Thomas hearing. Some, it was the O.J. Simpson case. For some, it was Bill Clinton's impeachment. For other people, it was 9/11. But it usually comes down to a fundamental understanding that the media is carrying the water for the left and the Democratic Party, and is there to act as a checks and balance against the Republicans and the conservatives.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned that you had this moment. People often ask me, an African-American male, how could you possibly be conservative Republican? Well, I woke up one day and I said, well, that's not right. Wait a minute. We've been lied to all this time. Hang on a second. And it sort of hit me like in a couple days. Kind of like you're like, wait, maybe the things that I really believe are not lined up with who I thought I was, who I was being told I was. That is interesting that everyone, that people our age seem to have this catharsis moment like, hey, wait a minute. That's amazing. There's
a lot of them. And, the way that they get you when you're very early on is on the civil rights issue. I grew up, one of my first memories was watching the Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right. You remember, like, when two people would vie for, a trip to Paris, a jet ski, like an umbrella set, an outdoor umbrella set, and if you actually guessed it within a certain amount, you could not only win your showcase, but you could actually win the other guy's showcase, and that was like the bonanza of all time. And I remember my friend Larry, my next door neighbor, best friend, and he's now my business partner. We used to root for the black guys, especially the black guys in the military, to win the Showcase Showdown. And I think that George Bush George W. Bush called this the soft bigotry of lowered expectations.
Wow.
Is that you're so caught up in the narrative that the liberal media gives you, that black people need our help. The term for that is played out as noblesse oblige. That was the mindset that you grow up in on the west side of Los Angeles, on the upper west side of Manhattan. These are the elites who have the money and who have the control in our society and want to be in the positions of power. And one of the ways they're able to maintain their positions of power is to pander to large blocks of the electorate, especially ones that fit under the multicultural paradigm of the victim class. And I find it to be condescending.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's horrible. And I've been called a racist for espousing this point of view, but I have a Mexican sister. If one were to, because we were both adopted, and I resent people that tell me that my relationship with my sister is something extraordinary. It is simply she's my sister. There's no importance to the fact that I have a certain type of blood and she has a certain type of blood. She is my sister, and any government that is going to tell me that relationship should be differentiated by the tone of our skin, I find it deeply offensive.
And we should, and we should. You're absolutely right. And I do find it offensive that when people come to me and say, "Well, your people have struggled for so." I mean, what your people? What people in my family? People, my wife, my son. We haven't struggled that much because no one has hung me from a tree. No one has tried to set me on fire. No, I have not struggled all that much. I have been blessed by the things that are available to me in this country. And as we talk about these things, I want to kind of shift to what we could do about them, because around here, I gotta tell you, it's all about what we can do about it. We've all located the problem, sort of like the doctor has diagnosed the problem. Now we got to find a way to get this viewpoint to the people who really need to hear it.
Well, I'm all for that. One of the websites that I just created is called Big Hollywood, and it's attempting to take on the Hollywood left. How the average person would think that Hollywood is the strength of liberalism and of the Democratic Party, because there's the perception that everybody in Hollywood happens to be liberal. That's not the truth. As a matter of fact, Hollywood is the Achilles heel of the Democratic Party, because Janine Garofalo and Whoopi Goldberg and Tim Robbins represent to middle Americans people who are ungrateful, for this country, who are apologetic for this country, who insult this country, who go abroad to insult this country. And so the idea is, don't cower to these people, confront them. And that's what Big Hollywood is doing by holding their words accountable, holding their art accountable, and putting it up as a mirror up against them. And we'll be creating within the next year big tolerance and big education, two things that most certainly will be pointed towards the Democratic Party's use of race and trying to keep people in their place. For one, the education thing is virtually unaddressed in the mainstream media. The New York Times, Los Angeles Times, CNN, CBS, ABC, none of them will bring up the degree to which the overly expensive education system in this country, where we spend way too much money and get way too little in return, is failing our kids and disproportionately failing kids who happen to be ethnic minorities. That's why we're also creating big tolerance. We're going to get black conservatives, gay conservatives, Hispanic conservatives to take on the tolerance mafia that tells you that the only way to be black, gay, Hispanic, Icelandic, Eskimo is to be a hyphenated American and one who embraces the victim status. That's BS. It's no way to in this country.
Awesome.
It's no way to succeed in this country is to come to the starting line and say that you're going to lose the race.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We got to take a short pause, but when we get back, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this conservative media mess. You've got this, and you've got this great message, and the conservative message is a great, empowering American message. But it doesn't seem the people who are in charge of delivering this message can serve it on anything other than the garbage can lid that we tried last election cycle. So if we can talk about that when we get back, that would be awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much. My name is William Lawson. It's the William Lawson Show. My guest is Andrew Breitbart. Please call your friends. Get them to listen. Get them to call in. We'll be back in just a bit.
Talk Radio 860 WGUL.
Music is the honey that makes life sweet. Nowhere else in Tampa Bay is there more music than Dave's Pianos. Dave has more pianos in stock than anywhere in Central Florida and at the lowest prices. Dave stocks new and used pianos of all the finest brands: Kawai, Steinway, Yamaha, and Samick. And no waiting for weeks to make music. Dave delivers your piano the same day you buy it. Visit Dave at 654 Oakfield Drive, Brandon, or call 813-662-0303. At Dave's Pianos, you always deal with Dave.
Are you looking for that perfect country club with no initiation fee, no assessments, no dues increase, and no minimums? Well, that club is the River Hills Country Club. Memberships are tailored to fit your lifestyle. Golf, tennis, swimming, fitness. The best club, best value guaranteed. You can try the Jolie 18-hole championship golf course. You can try our tennis center with 8 lighted hard true courts. There's wireless internet access and 24-hour access to the fitness center. There's also a family playground. PGA and USTA professional instruction available. You want to experience being a member for a day? Call us at 877-947-2772 or register at www.joinriverhills.com.
With Memorial Day fast approaching, are you thinking about a family get-together? Sounds great, but it's so much work. With all the cooking and cleaning, you have no time to spend with the people you care so much about. Don't you wish that someone else could do it all for you? Well, the great folks at Oakfield Market are who you are looking for. They are ready to cater any event, any size, so you can spend time with your loved ones. That's Oakfield Market at 526 Oakfield Drive in Brandon. The number is 813-657-8247 or oakfieldmarket.com.
Are you looking for that perfect home spruce up? Consider lighting. A new fixture can transform a space in a dynamic way. And Luminaire Lighting is sure to have the perfect fixture for your taste and your budget. Luminaire carries fixture styles from old world to contemporary. Luminaire has 6,000 square feet dedicated to your lighting and ceiling fan needs. So please visit Luminaire Lighting at 308 West Robertson Street, Brandon, Florida. Our number is 813-653-3460 or visit us at www.luminairelighting.com.
Summer is coming, and that's the time for family and class reunions. Nothing commemorates that reunion better than those cool T-shirts. Tampa T-shirts offers the finest in eco-friendly clothing perfectly customized for your event. Let your creativity soar as the experts at Tampa T-shirts make your imagination come to life. If you have custom embroidery needs, your search is now over. Tampa T-shirts offers quality embroidered apparel. The large product selection of polos, knits, wovens, headgear, and accessories will be a great complement for your design. So be sure to call Tampa T-shirts at 813-875-3024 or the factory at 5112 North 22nd Street, Tampa. That's Tampa T-shirts online at tampatshirts.com.
This is the only show where the term conservative grassroots actually means something. Grab a phone and give us a call. In Hillsboro, 813-289-1860. Anywhere else, toll free, 877-969-8600. Back to the Willie Lawson Show on Talk Radio 860 WGUL.
All right, we're back. Yes, we're back, and we're with my guest, Andrew Breitbart. It has been a tremendous 40 minutes. This is crazy how quick time seems to go. We were talking about getting the message of conservatism out to people in different minority groups. And just a new person. I remember watching one of Andrew's videos where he was talking to a group of people, and he's talking about going to Washington and seeing these folks dressed up in their Ronald Reagan suits, pretty much, and basically that's turning folks off right away and not being able to get the message of conservatism out to people in a way that they can understand. So, if Andrew, you there?
Yes.
All right. So, how can conservatives get that message out to people in a way that they can assimilate it, they can understand it, and accept it? That isn't, again, like the Ronald Reagan clones. God bless Ronald Reagan and his family and what they were able to do in his country. However, there's got to be some changes.
Well, the 1980s was the last time that Republicans felt like they were ascendant and that their message was circumventing the mainstream media at the time, and everybody kind of liked the way that the country was going when taxes were lowered and we stopped apologizing for what we were. And so we've sort of taken a mental snapshot of that. You go to Washington, D.C., and conservatives are wearing the same outfits, the same blue blazers with the, God bless America. It's kind of that every time the Republicans, have a convention, you hear Lee Greenwood's proud to be an American. It was fine the first, 6 conventions, but when you juxtapose that with what the Democrats do, which is put on a real show, it makes the average person under the age of 103 cringe, and it's sort of a nightmare. And I tell people who are having their conversion status that if they're looking for cool, they've come to the wrong place. But at least you get to sleep better at night, knowing that your thoughts comport with reality. I think that one of the reasons why liberals are so angry is because they live in a false reality, a sense that they live in hell, and that but if we just followed their pathway, their political pathway, we would be in utopia. So they're angry because they're not grateful for that which we have, the way that democracy in our constitutional republic has worked so well. So we tend to think that the grass is, the grass is green, and that the glass is half full, and they think that that the glass has been taken over by an oppressive regime, and that it's been stomped, and that the glass shards are in the throat of the oppressed, So about the media, one thing that people have to understand about the media and the triumphalism that the conservatives have towards this new media is that they really haven't created what they think they've created. We have not created a new media. We've simply created a checks and balance against the mainstream media. And so whenever they make a mistake in the form of talk radio and in blogs and other websites, we're able to point them out. But what we haven't done, and very similar, this is very similar with Hollywood, is fine, we're critics. That's what talk radio is. That's what the blogs are. The Associated Press or New York Times writes an article, or CNN does a story. They give us the content, and then we take that content and we slice it and dice it, and we try to find the truth from it. Mm-hmm. So what we haven't been able to do is create our own media. If you're going to complain about ABC or CBS or NBC, why not just buy it? Why not take it over? And why not create, different rules and say, you know what, we're now in charge here, and we're not going to do what GE has done to NBC, and we're not going to turn it into a far leftist media organ. What we're going to do is trying to institute an ideal here. We're going to try and, put fair and balanced information out there, and we'll have pundits coming from the right, admitted people from the right, and admitted people from the left to put their opinions on the facts of the day. But we don't, and so we sit on the sidelines and we complain. We do the same thing with Hollywood. Oh, that movie's so horrible. Until we create our own news divisions, until we create our own studios, the left has a pretty good argument against us that we're complainers, that's all we do.
So I understand what you're saying. So the next step obviously is to create either buy these existing venues, these existing things somehow, or simply create our own.
Yes, and not to look for the leadership in Washington D.C. Yes. to lead us down a path of glory. The idea that a Ronald Reagan is going to come and save us, we can't. That's basically that's the Hail Mary strategy, and we have to have a better boots on the ground strategy, one that doesn't look to the next congressional midterm election, or doesn't look to the next presidential cycle. Or the one after that looks really in the long term, for the next generation. And I think we have a winnable battle, because I think that the American people can see through the bias. The American people can see through Hollywood's motivation and how obvious it is. But the thing is if we think we're going to change it in 2 years, and we're going to turn Hollywood around in 2 years, if you take that approach, it's an unwinnable battle, and then we don't engage in it. But if we have a long-term engagement in it, it's a winnable battle. So one thing I can tell the audience is there are conservatives in Hollywood. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have made that. I now know for a fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people, well-known people, actors, writers, directors, who have been intimidated like college, like conservatives on a college campus, at Brown or Harvard. And that's what the left does. It intimidates people into silence, and conservatives tend to be polite by nature and just sort of bite their lips and move forward and try and provide as best as they can for their families and don't want to make any hay. But I think that the left has been so ascendant recently and so punitive towards those that would disagree with them that the left is providing the right an opportunity to coalesce for people to come out of the closet that otherwise would be silent. And I think that there is a great opportunity for a resurgence of a strong and a conservative movement with teeth.
Now, this is because you're talking about something that's long term, and I'm all about long term because I'm thinking that the way that we generally approach these things in this country is indeed from election cycle to election cycle, and we've tried that paradigm, and it really hasn't worked all that well. If you look at businesses, if you look at our business models, and if they're not long term, they don't really work all that well. Are there any groups, are there any organizations that you see on the horizon of the 700 billion that have shown up, all the way from the American Liberty Alliance to Don't Go to any number of them that have shown up? Do you see any of them that are heading the direction that you're talking about, that you're thinking about?
No, I'm not into the political activism part of it. I'm talking about the culture creation part of it. I'm talking about you wouldn't need those type of organizations if you had culture on your side. And you were speaking earlier about the left's success. The left, the left has an attitude every election cycle of we need to win, we need bodies, and they'll change their policy on immigration. And because they recognize, hey, it may not be good for our country if we create an amnesty law, but it certainly will be good for the Democratic Party because that the majority of those people that we would grant amnesty would vote Democrat. Similarly, with Acorn and the way that they troll, the bad parts of town and go to Skid Row and try and get people who are face down in the gutter, heroin addicts, to try and get them to vote, giving them cigarettes or whatever. The Democratic Party cares about winning, and it seems to me that the Republican Party, as based in Washington, D.C., it acts like it's some type of elite country club or yacht club. It's like, that person's unsavory. They were in a punk rock band. Not sure I would like them. I'm like, look, this is a democracy. Yeah. This is not a cotillion. We need 51%. And if you think about this, the show that best reflects a hipness, a coolness that accidentally worked towards the conservative benefit was South Park. If you were to take Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who pitched Comedy Central and Viacom with the subversive show, if you pitched the RNC, if you pitched Michael Steele or Ed Gillespie or any of the people, or Jim Nicholson or Newt Gingrich, the premise of that show, the way that they pitched Comedy Central 12, 13 years ago, I guarantee you every single Republican would have said, absolutely not. That is that is profane, and we want nothing to do with it. And now that is a success, every conservative wants to take credit for it and say, oh, those guys reflect our point of view. We have to get outside of our 19th century Victorian sensibilities and recognize that we're in the 21st century.
I understand, and if I'm getting all this right, and I've said this before on my show, my show on Blog Talk Radio, is that what we have to do is win the hearts and minds and be able to speak to people who live in this century in the language and in the media that they understand.
Well, I agree with that, and I'm not saying that I'm that person, but I am trying to be a Pied Piper out there. I went to I was in New York last weekend, and I saw my favorite punk LA band called X, And afterwards, I ended up talking with their very famous guitarist, Billy Zoom, and he's a conservative Republican and a Christian. And there are a lot of those guys out there. Another guy by the name of Joe Escalante from the band The Vandals, who's Catholic and very conservative. There are a lot of people out there, but they have to stay quiet, because when they do come out and they do extend, put their necks out there, the left goes out them, the left pillories them, they take away their uncool card, and there's no one in the conservative movement that knows that those bands even exist.
So there's no one to defend them.
Right, and no one defend them. So there has to be some way to connect the worlds, the political class from the cultural class, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, you know what? I guess anything that we can do here to do that, because I'm a jazz player, so I know exactly what you're saying. You know, I'm the jazz guy who really likes the whole spoken word groove and the whole poetry thing. So you know what kind of groups I end up being with and kind of people I end up talking to all the time. And you're right, when they find out that I'm the conservative Christian guy who's actually black, their heads spin around and the pea soup comes out. So I understand what you're saying. I really do. All right, we're going to take a short one. Andrew, I'm sorry. I have
too
good manners.
Polite for your own good.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it. Let me get more comfortable, and I'll be less polite. I promise. We're going to take a short one, and we're back in a little bit. Thank you so much, Mr. Breitbart, for coming on the show today. You have been another one of my brushes with greatness, and my listeners need to hear what you have to say, because we do need to change the culture in a way that's good for all of us.